Jared, how close are we to a quorum?
So I was just gonna say, we have reached 3 o'clock and we do have a quorum.
Cool.
Okay. Well, at this point, I'll call the meeting to order so that we can get started and try to keep everything on a timely basis. Quorum's established. So moving on to agenda item approval, which is item number 2. We need a motion and a second on that, if we could, please. If you've had an opportunity to look at the agenda, if not, it should be on your screen.
I actually, as staff, have a change to the agenda.
Okay.
So we have action item 5A. That's the Community Traffic Safety Education Review. Our TAC has actually asked us to take a step back with that and do a little bit more information gathering, which I think is a great idea. So we're actually going to present that today as an information item, if that's agreeable to the CAC, and then we will bring it back in a future month for action.
Okay.
So if it's information, we don't need a motion, is that correct?
No, we don't need a motion for approval of the agenda item, but we do need a agenda approval.
Okay, Welling Clark, first vice chair, El Paso County, recommend approval of the agenda as presented with the modification that 5A is information only, not a information or recommend. Is there a second?
Roy Rosenthal, second.
Get that, Jared? Okay. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any additional comments? Discussion?
If not, call for approval.
Okay, if not, we'll call for approval. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the agenda passes. Okay, consent items will be next up, item number 3. Sorry for the interruption. Welling's a little tough to deal with.
I'm
today.
being ornery, sorry.
Okay. Is there any discussion by any committee members today? Okay, hearing none, I will bring up one. Something that will be addressed, and Welling and I's working on it, is a CAC update as far as memberships, vacancies, and we'll make some calls over the next month. The next month, bring it back to full CAC-U to make any votes or recommendations accordingly. But we've got several entities that do not have people present at this time. So that's something we're looking into taking action on and getting people here, or at least virtually, so that we have more participation.
Mr. Chair, not to I just want to double check. I think the agenda item was for the approval of the consent items, which was the approval of the minutes. I don't know if we.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we accomplished that quite yet.
Okay.
Maylee also has her hand raised.
Any additions, recommendations, or changes to the minutes from last month?
Okay. Yes. On the minutes from last month. Well, first, Maylee, do you have a comment or question? I see your.
That was my comment. Go ahead.
I jumped the gun. I'm getting excited here. I'm sorry. But now, any discussion comments on the last month's minutes?
Yeah, any corrections, additions, or deletions that need to be inserted into the minutes that are logged into this document that occurred last month?
I got your back.
Thank you. Hearing none, then we'll take a motion to approve the minutes. Welling has made the motion. Do we have a second?
Okay, I made a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Kathy Heisey, Calhan, I'll second.
Okay, and motion a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. And sorry, I got us off track, Jared. So on the public comment section, is there anyone that would like to address us, or is there anyone online, Jared?
So I'll ask anyone who's online to raise their hand if they'd like to make a public comment. I'll use that time for anyone who wants to raise their hand. We have not received any advance requests for public comment through our email account. And Maylee has her hand raised, but I don't know if it's for public
Yes.
comment or.
Hey, I learned how to do this little raising hand thing, so watch out. I noticed that we have no representatives on the CAC from the city of Colorado Springs. So I went to the city of Colorado Springs website, and they do have a link to go into to apply to volunteer for things, but they say they have no openings for anything. So somehow there's a communication gap with the city. I think because I have several people, I kind of talked it up and I wanted them to apply to represent the city, but they don't know how to do it.
Okay, that's something that we just had a discussion on prior to this meeting, and Welling is going to address some of the people at Colorado Springs. And I'm making some calls also. Hopefully we get that handled by next month and can come back and let you know where we're at with that.
Specifically, I
I
will
do
be,
have a few candidates that would be interested. They just can't figure out how to apply. So that'll be great.
no, that'll be good information. I intend to contact all of the new city council members, tell them we have all 3 openings are considered vacant. And
to reach Joni or to leave a message for.
okay, Joni, mute. No, thank you. Okay. And I'm going to be contacting the county, the city council and letting them know that there are vacancies and people are interested, and can they have the city update the website? And if there's anything else, and also to issue a press release as well. And we do have vacancies out east or west in Park County, like Alma, Fairplay, and do the same thing there in Victor.
Teller County and Cripple Creek.
Woodland Park.
Woodland Park, yes. So we've got a lot to address, and Welling and I will be making some calls so that hopefully next month we can get with you and determine where we're at. Definitely an update. Okay, any other discussion since we're on open comments? Okay, hearing none, Danelle, if you want to do your information item instead of the action item, we're up for that.
Okay, Jared, do we need to do the action item first, or is it okay to?
It's nothing but
I
comments.
think we can move around, but yeah, we typically go action items first and then information items.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, I just want to say with regards to the action item, I reviewed it in detail. It looks like a lot of grammatical and corrections like commas and such, and then a couple of clarification statements made. So I think that'll go real quick.
And that would be for you, Jessica.
Yes, hello. Hi there. Jess Bechtel, PPACG, Transportation Programming and Project Delivery Planner. And Welling, you're correct. It's mostly just updates to grammar, things like that. The biggest change we made, and hopefully everyone had a chance to review the document. It's an internal guiding document that we use on our process. The biggest change that we made really is the acronyms list towards the back of the document, just to clarify, specify, make it easy for people that yeah, so there's about 5 pages of acronyms added to the back of that at the request of the TAC. So other than that, it's mostly just additions of carbon reduction grant or funding and simple cleanup of the document. So do you guys have any questions about this, or anything we can clarify, or suggestions any further?
So no substantial changes, just all pretty much
Correct,
grammatical.
Yep, and just clarifying things, updating some of the information in there. So there was like a point that was made about CDOT's 10-year cycle. So we just cleaned that up a little bit. That's all.
I just want to compliment you. I saw a paragraph where it was very complex with 3 or 4 sentences, and you said that CDOT and PPACG will update and cross communicate. And it was just 1 paragraph. But it really made it a lot clearer. That's it right there. That's a lot cleaner, a lot more concise, and I do appreciate that.
Yep, that would be Danelle. She's a wonderful wordsmith, and so we look to her to have her clean up these things. She makes them pretty for us. Very concise.
Well, it better reflects the situation going forward as well. We talk to CDOT monthly, if not weekly, so
Almost daily, goodness. Yes.
Good.
It's called Keep It Simple Sailor.
I like it.
Any
So,
questions for Jessica?
Roy?
I
Yes.
think we've got one, Jared.
I have a question. This is Chris Crockett from Kono. Just a matter of clarification for me. It says that the TAC was going to approve this 5 days ago. Was that accomplished? Did TAC approve it as written? And I know it's just for, well, I'm not sure why we have action on that, if it's already been approved by TAC.
Has to go through
So-
process, I think.
Correct. Yes. So it did go to the TAC, and they did approve it as written. And so if they were to have changes, then we would address those changes and still bring it to you. But that's part of the PPACG board's process of reviewing and approving these things. It'll go through TAC and you guys as well. So if there was any recommended changes, those would be brought to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a motion on this item.
Someone else make a motion. I made two of them already.
Don't be shy.
I move
I
to
think
approve.
I
Maylee's
have to
trying to
unmute
talk.
myself, sorry. Okay, I'll move.
I saw your hand moving. I wondered. Okay,
But- Yes,
And
so
who
I will
did the
make the
second?
motion to accept, I don't have
To
the
approve.
wording in front of me, but you know what I mean.
Motion to approve the,
And it's
TAC
a
advi-
recommendation of approval.
yeah,
to
the
board.
recommendation as submitted.
Yes, thank you.
I will second Terry Hayes.
okay.
Jerry, yeah, okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
I think there's a hand up. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
oh,
I've got to put my hand down now. I forgot.
thanks, everyone.
Do I push on the hand again?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah, did you have a question,
There it
Ann?
goes.
You're okay?
no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like called click on, click off, similar to the Karate Kid.
Okay.
Okay, back to approval. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously then. Okay, now Danelle, we'll go back to you.
Okay. So, about 6 months or so ago, internally, we at PPACG decided to try to work with a consultant to create sort of a data gathering effort related to traffic safety education efforts. So we kind of recognize that there's a lot of different groups or even individuals in some cases doing traffic safety education efforts in our region. Anything from, checking car seats to, releasing educational materials, doing commercials, any sort of thing in that kind of traffic safety spectrum. But we felt like it seemed there may be some opportunities for improvement, not only with the efforts that are going on, but also the coordination of some of those efforts. So we kind of brought a consultant on board. Is a very small dollar amount for the effort, but we felt it was important to try to get a good baseline, try to get a picture of what people are doing. So we started this actually in October of 2022. And Jared, if you want to go to page 7 of the document, this is actually a little bit of a PowerPoint that we put together. If you go to the next slide, please. So this just kind of gives a little bit of an overview of why we did this. Why did we why did we want to do this effort? And really it started because obviously traffic fatalities and serious injuries are increasing in our region. And this effort really was a three-part effort. First was outreach, interviews, surveys, meetings, those kinds of things. Our consultants with PPACG kind of put together a matrix of those initial findings, what kind of efforts are out there, who's doing them, that kind of thing. And then finally is kind of a report of here's the existing conditions in not only El Paso County, but also Park and Teller, to the extent that we could talk to those entities as well. And also we asked the consultant to kind of provide some recommendations. Where did they see areas where we can do better as a community? Next slide, please. So this is just the initial results of the stakeholder outreach. We contacted a little more than 70 entities. We got responses from about 28 of those. We've actually made some additional connections since these slides were created, so that's why I'm using approximately here. And we also attended the Drive Smart Colorado board meetings, and also the Safe Kids and the Pikes Peak Traffic Safety Coalition meetings as well, to kind of try to gather some information and also put the information out there that we were looking for this effort, and also future relationship development for the future. Next slide, please. So this just talks a little bit about our survey. These in the box on the right are some of the traffic safety topics that we were specifically looking for. So aggressive driving, seat belts, impaired driving, teen driving, elderly driving, child seats, motorcycle safety, bike helmets, bike safety, pedestrian safety, and traffic signs. And those topics or buckets are kind of overarching things that we heard over and over again from some of our transportation contacts, our Drive Smart board members, and some of the other people that we had talked about regarding this effort. So we really reached out to groups about, what kind of organization are you? How big are you? What kind of funding do you have? Is this, are the efforts that you're putting forth, is that adequate? Is there challenges you face? Are there things that you need to support? Are you working with other groups? So all these kinds of things to just kind of get a baseline for what's going on out there. Also, we did try to make a specific effort to talk to our military installations and those folks to try to see if they were plugged into other community efforts or not, or if they were interested in that in the future. Next slide, please. So these are just some of the key findings up to this point. And like I said, our TAC did ask us to go back out. They provided us with some more contacts and better contacts in some cases to get some more information. So we are still doing some data gathering. But a lot of the things that we heard were there are challenges with data, with information tracking. There's a lot of challenges with lack of staffing, lack of funding, lack of knowledge. There are a lot of people who may have retired during COVID, or perhaps during COVID there were in-person meetings that fell off and haven't really picked up steam again. So those are all sort of some of the things that we heard from. We heard specifically regarding school outreach that it's really difficult to make contacts with some of those schools. There's just schools, police, fire departments, nonprofit groups. People are spread very thin, I think, across the board. Another thing that we heard was specifically insurance providers, but also other organizations used to provide funding or resources toward specific traffic safety efforts, and some of those have pulled back. And whether or not that will restart during or post-COVID is it hasn't happened yet that we have seen. So that's another issue that we kind of saw from our interviews and from our data gathering. If you click onto the next slide, a couple of other strengths and opportunities we found. There's a lot of funding out there. There's new federal funding, there's Safe Streets and Roads for All funding, there's Safe Routes to School funding, which we've talked a little bit about at the CAC. So there are funding mechanisms out there that perhaps could be pursued. And just as a side note here, I don't think it's specifically written down in this document, but we at PPACG, along with Drive Smart Colorado, which is under the PPCG umbrella now, but it is still a nonprofit. So PPACG and Drive Smart have kind of partnered to apply for some grant funding to hopefully get a kind of safety champion kind of role here, so that there is somebody who can be kind of a touch point and try to better coordinate, perhaps launch some new initiatives, or we just really feel that it's an important topic and something that we want to try to support and improve the community. Hopefully we'll have news on that in the future, but just so you're aware, that's something that we have taken on. A couple of other strengths and opportunities we found were, like I said, there are very passionate volunteers out there. It's really a challenge of getting them coordinated and getting the efforts that they can put their energy to. We did find that the local military installations are interested in being more involved in the community, and they also have their own funding sources that could be of help. And we also found some other entities that might be helpful. For example, the Pikes Peak Library District. So we did get some recommendations. We did find a lot of positives as well as the negatives. Next slide, please. So these are a couple of the themes that our consultant kind of categorized the recommendations. But really, it came down to one of the biggest things they found was just a lack of coordinated efforts, a lack of cooperation between entities, that kind of thing. And so we really felt, because of this study and because of what we heard, that perhaps in the future Drive Smart could be revived a little bit. Perhaps that could serve as a nexus to really help solidify some of these efforts throughout the region. Next slide. And then we just have a couple of the highlights of recommendations. So for example, there are groups that can work on advocacy in our region. There are groups that can pursue funding. There's definitely funding sources that can be better utilized if there are groups that are able to apply for those and secure them. There's some training, potential training opportunities out there. Not only with grants, but also with services such as the car seat checks. Partnerships, that was a big one that we really wanted to focus on for the future, is developing relationships, or in some cases, reinvigorating relationships. I think Drive Smart has been around for 25 years, I believe. John Henry has been around working Drive Smart. But it's not as strong as it used to be. There aren't as many volunteers. There aren't as many, tangible efforts going on. So I know there's a lot of push to kind of reinvigorate some of that. There's also some opportunities for planning. We're actually working on a potential scope for a causation study that has to do with crashes. And that goes back a little bit to the information that Jason O'Brien presented to you, I believe, last month. So we are kind of following up on some of that. And then there's also some messaging opportunities out there. Perhaps we can, either us or Drive Smart or perhaps another group, we haven't worked all of it out, but there are opportunities to expand the role of schools or expand the participation of groups, of safety groups with the schools. There's also some opportunities to develop better marketing campaigns. And I know, again, Jason O'Brien has been very involved in those kinds of media campaigns that PPACG has done in the past, and we will continue to do those. But there's a lot of opportunities, I think, that will hopefully come about once we have more coordination, hopefully more funding, those kinds of things. One more slide, I think. Yep. So again, as I said, we did put together a report. We are actively conducting a little bit more research, and we'll bring that final report back to you again once we've done a little bit more data gathering. There's a few groups, I think, that either we may have missed or that we just didn't know about. So we're gonna put a little bit more into that, and we'll bring it back to you. If not next month, then the month after. And that is that it will be available on our website. Hopefully we will have the opportunity to keep looking at that site as more, or keep looking at that document as more efforts happen in the community, if that makes sense. And hopefully that will kind of spur some action, both for PPACG, for Drive Smart, and perhaps for some other entities in the region as well. So at this time, like I said, it's just informational at this point, but happy to take any questions, any thoughts that you might have.
Judith, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Danelle. This is a topic that's of great interest to me. I'm going to send you some more information of the 9 districts in Colorado which received like up to $1 million in Safe Routes to School grants from the federal government. Nobody in El Paso County applied, or Teller or Park, which is kind of disappointing. There's also been a lot recently. One of the interesting articles to me, and I will forward it to you, Daniel, is data that's been collected on how much more dangerous SUVs are than regular vehicles. A collision with a pedestrian or a cyclist with an SUV is like almost certain to kill, something I never thought about before. And so a question I have, and maybe it's unrealistic, is do we know what the proportions of licensed vehicles in Colorado Springs is in terms of small trucks, SUVs, or I don't even know what all the categories are. But that was quite alarming to me as one sees the incredible growth in SUVs, to learn how much more dangerous they are. And I don't know if you could accomplish what I was not able to accomplish. On October 29th, I went to the Colorado Springs Police Department and asked for data on crashes and tickets that involved drunk drivers. And as requested, I left my check for the report, and they told me it could be, 1 to 5 weeks. Well, that was October 29th, and we are now well into April, and I have yet to receive anything. And I know on the excellent presentation we had from the gentleman from the state, he said that there's a delay in getting that data, but that just seems to me sort of incredible. And I think he also mentioned that it's difficult when marijuana is involved in terms of testing. That's a problem. But what we do know, absolutely, I can send you this. We do know that the number of fatalities in traffic accidents in Colorado Springs is already way above today's date from the same date last year. The
Mhm.
number of traffic fatalities in El Paso County is way above, and the number of traffic fatalities in Colorado is way above. And I think if we shared that information more widely, maybe more people would take notice and be alarmed. On a personal basis, and this may be not appropriate for our committee, but one of the things that we hear all the time is that we're 70 individuals short for Colorado Springs Police Department. And so for traffic enforcement, obviously that presents an issue. So I will send you some more of the articles that I found recently, but I do appreciate you doing this because I think it's really important.
We do as well, certainly. And there are a lot of entities, as I said,
Yeah, I don't want to compliment.
doing various efforts. I know that CDOT has launched some very specific items.
so.
Hey, Welling, you need to mute.
I am.
I know that CDOT in particular has launched some initiatives specifically targeting kind of fatalities and serious injuries. But yeah, we agree that there's a lot that can be done and a lot that we would like to do. It's just a matter of, in some cases, getting some funding to do some things, and in some cases, whose lane does that fall into? And so that's kind of why we're trying to go after this grant and get a safety champion, kind of do some more analysis about how can we help.
Thank
We
you.
have another question.
Is that me?
Yes,
Chris-
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chris Crockett with Kono. Thank you, Danelle, for bringing this to us. I do find it's just a fascinating topic and something that is extraordinarily important, as Judith has said. I was wondering, is the reason it's going back for additional work because of wanting to crunch the numbers we have more, or is it to get more of the missing stakeholders to weigh in? And
Yeah.
or is it both, or is it something else that I haven't thought of?
No, it's really to get more stakeholders. So there are, in some cases, some people we weren't able to get a hold of that now we have some better sources for. There's also a couple of efforts that we've heard about that we didn't know about before. So we're going to try to get a little bit more information, get some of the jurisdictions a little bit more involved, just so that they have better awareness. And that's really kind of why we wanted to pull it back a little bit and develop it a bit more.
I really appreciate that, particularly as, I mean, I don't know which are the missing 50-ish stakeholders, but it's very discouraging to see that schools are difficult to contact and they're unable to contribute to this issue, because that's where education really can start. And there's nothing more impactful than having, well, as it relates to smoking, having a 8-year-old ask you in the grocery store, when are you going to stop being so stupid, Mom? If you use that kind of educational opportunity from the youngest grades to reinforce traffic and crash avoidance and all of that, I think it could be very impactful. The other thing I would say is I was reading something anecdotally that said there were a lot of high school age children, certainly nationwide. I don't know if this translates to Colorado or to El Paso County or our areas, but that high school students are not interested in learning how to drive anymore, and that this issue comes up more in college. So once they're over 18, the graduated license is no longer imposed on them. They can just buy a car and go out and drive. And I was sad to see, I was glad in the Matrix to see that higher education was there. Sad to see that apparently they don't do anything on this. So I hope those are some of the stakeholders, and ask those questions about why aren't they interested in this? What's happening here? So.
And we did hear a lot about the graduated driver's license in particular, and how it can be very confusing both for teens and for parents. We did hear about perhaps some future partnerships that could happen with driving schools. Perhaps that's a connection that can be made. Drive Smart Colorado actually used to do a high school safety challenge. That's an effort that they put a lot of time into for many years, and I think that's something that we may or Drive Smart may pick up again in the near future. We've talked about that as well with the Pikes Peak Traffic Safety Coalition, having some sort of teen summit or young driver summit. So that's definitely on our radar.
Okay, Ann has a question.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
I just want to commend you for doing this because I know that several of us have really wanted to get into this safety problem, you know, Judith and others as well. And it really wasn't part of, as Andrew said, the wheelhouse or whatever he called it. But I think that's great that you're doing this. And I was just going to mention something personally. Long time ago, when MAD got started in 1981, I lived in North Carolina at the time, and a child was killed in my neighborhood on a Sunday by a teenage drunk driver. And we started a group, we called ourselves North Carolinians Against Intoxicated Drivers. We couldn't figure out how to be a MAD chapter, but we made a difference, and we were probably 15 people. And we got laws changed. We wrote a newsletter. We sat in court and watched, you know, did a lot of things like that. And the personal touch, you know, now we can't do this as the PPACG, but I approve of what you're doing. And I looked up MAD today, just thinking about this. I don't even know if there's a chapter in Colorado Springs, but they're very good at getting information. They're closely connected, or used to be, we were, with law enforcement. And so I'm just really pleased that you're doing this. And I'd like to leave you with a little note. I remember reading something that the best deterrent, or the best deterrent to bad driving is a police officer in your rear vision mirror. And that's true. You know, we aren't getting the law enforcement people we need and want. So I'm really pleased that you're doing this. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Like I said, we do feel it's important. We do actually have a couple of MAD folks in our region, so there is a presence here, and they do still work with the police officers. We actually have pretty heavy police presence on both our Drive Smart Colorado board and on the Pikes Peak Traffic Safety Coalition. So there are efforts, there are people, there are a lot of passionate people. So hopefully, you know, a little bit more work can help make some impacts.
Well, it's hard to get everybody together, and I know this is always a problem. It was 30 years ago. So, you know, you just do your best, and thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Welling has some comments now.
Now I'm in trouble. But actually, Danielle, first question that comes to mind, we have some very passionate people about public safety. Judith rises to the top, Ann and some other people. How do we get people involved in this effort outside the CAC so they can participate and help with this effort? Don't answer that right now. I'd recommend a response back to the CAC on how to do that, because it's some people's passions. Okay. Second thing is, I really appreciate the ability that PPACG is doing to integrate and get a synergy of effort of all these individual efforts to get everybody on board, you know, get all the horses going in the same direction to pull a stagecoach, so to speak. I think that's very valuable. It's kind of like getting the pieces of the picture together to see the big picture. One of the things that does come up comment about schools. Question I would have is, who are we contacting? Some of us know different school board members. Is it the school board that we need to talk to? Is it the head of the school district? I forgot the exact title. The superintendent of the different school districts. And what are the school districts? Can we, as the citizens, reach out to get them involved in it as well? The last thing that comes through is, when I watch this presentation, the question is, where are the weak spots and where should we initiate action to resolve things that fall through the cracks or don't cross correlate with other efforts so we can achieve a difference? I don't expect an answer right now, but if you have any input you can put out to us, that would be most welcome.
Certainly.
Thank you.
We can put some information together. And I think the biggest weak spot really is with that overarching collaboration, and knowing who's out there, what's going on. And that's really why PPACG felt strongly about going after some grant funding to try to fill a role that perhaps can bring those people together. We also did, I don't know why I didn't mention this sooner, but PPACG also applied for, if you've heard of the AmeriCorps Vista program. So through AmeriCorps, there's a Vista volunteer program. And basically folks volunteer for a 1-year term with an organization for specific causes. PPACG actually applied for 3 volunteer slots. One of those was to assist specifically with traffic safety.
Oh.
And so we will actually be going out and releasing a job posting to fill that role in the near future. So hopefully we will have more than one person that's really dedicated to filling out some of this information and finding those weak spots and hopefully filling them.
You just actually said something that sparked a thought and consolidated it. One of the things you were talking about who can do what, that was one of the slides back. I think that'd be very beneficial to identify entities that can apply for grants, because not all can. Other entities can do other things, have other capabilities. If we can get a cross matrix of who can do what, we then know how to hook the team together. Who's the blocker, who's the running back, who's the quarterback type of an effort. Just a thought.
Okay, we have another question.
So
Yeah.
as Willing pointed out, I can get carried away with this, but I will send you a bunch of articles, Danielle, and I, again, really appreciate this. Another one, and I think it's significant for our community, is the New York Times just had a really long article on the incredible racial gap in traffic deaths. And I know just from a regular reader of the paper that does there for all kinds of things, pedestrian hits and whatnot, that's true. It's my impression. I haven't seen the data. In Southeast Colorado Springs, there are a whole lot more accidents and fatalities. So I haven't seen that information is organized in that fashion by the police department, but that would be another interesting way to look at the data. And I'll send you some more citations, but I do really appreciate that you're working on this.
When we applied for the grant that we're hopeful that we will receive, one of the criteria was actually the percentage of crashes that take place within disproportionately impacted communities, and that's kind of a term that's defined by CDPHE, the Public Health and Environment group. But there was a very high, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but it was surprisingly high to me what that percentage was.
It is. It's frightening.
There's more crime.
And that disproportionately impacted community may include not only racial or ethnic groups, but it also covers areas where there's a significant housing burden or low income, those kinds of things as well.
Thank you, Chris.
Just one more quick comment. This really brings to a head the importance of your work, our colleagues' works, in getting additional members onto this committee and the other committees that PPACG has, because superintendents and school boards are going to be much more interested in contributing if there's a robust citizen presence on these boards. So good luck. I hope.
Totally agree. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Well, Danelle, thank you very much. And please send your information to Danelle so that can get disseminated with everybody else.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll move on to member announcements. Is there any comments? Anyone online? Any announcements? Okay, hearing none, I do have a question. We had to postpone our group picture that was scheduled back in March for weather reasons. Would you be interested in doing that in May or June? We need to let Jared know in plenty of time so he can set up. And if we can get some comments, feedback on that. And obviously we'd all have to be here for the meeting.
Fine with me.
Which one, do you have a preference, May or June? Or May tends to be a lot of graduations, Memorial Day and things of that nature, but you know, sometimes it works out better. So
Roy, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
there you are. There you are. We can hear
Okay,
you now.
yeah, I'm gonna be out of town the end of May, so I'd rather have it in June.
Okay,
And
in
I do
June.
think it would be close to the Memorial Day weekend in May, so I vote for June.
Okay.
That'd be safer weather.
Probably better for weather because Colorado, you never know.
Yeah, June's fine too.
Okay, unless there's any objections, Jared, would you like to plan on June? We'll put that on the books and everybody show up with your smile.
And more than your smile.
And we'll have Welling here, so, you know, no. Any other comments, announcements? Meeting went pretty fast today, so we want to make sure we cover everything.
Oh, I just happened to think of something.
Sure, go ahead, Ann.
This is Ann. Green Mountain Falls, you know, has a lovely little church. And Reverend Avery, Darlene Avery, is very, very active in the community. And the little church has just become a Red Cross shelter. So they're very active up here in the mountains trying to provide for people, you know, in forest fires, other emergencies. And that's just another thing we could tap with public safety are the churches. Because, you know, they've always been a nucleus in a community, a neighborhood. That's just occurred to me. So
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Meeting schedule. I think you all have the calendar. Any questions or comments on that? I hate to end it so quick today.
No, you don't.
Miley, do you have something?
No, I was just laughing.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, hearing none, we'll call this meeting adjourned then.